There's people there.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, you got that.
All right. Well, for the remainder of the time that we have together today, first of all, thank you guys so much for your attention and your energy today. I know that we had a lot of folks that had to travel. Most of you had to travel at least an hour or more. Sammy, how long was your drive?
Like 7.
7 hours. So look, folks are a little tired. I get that. Hang with me, right? We're going to talk about AmeriCorps. Elaine is going to talk to us a little bit about the history, the overview. Like, it's going to be amazing. I sneaked at her slides and I was like, yes. They look really good. I'm really excited for this presentation. We'll do this and then we'll wrap up with a little activity. I'll get everybody up and moving. I am going to include folks online in our activity. Heads up. Just because you're online doesn't mean you don't have to. And then we are done for the day. We'll have dinner together and then we can call it an evening. Okay. So we're almost there. Thank you guys so much for your maintained attention and energy and enthusiasm. With that, I'm going to turn it over and let you talk to us about AmeriCorps. We've covered, if you haven't noticed, there's now posters around the room. Covered CHCM, Community Health Corps Montana. We have covered more AHEC, Montana Office of Rural Health and Area Health Education Center. Then we've got AmeriCorps up next. And then maybe we'll use these new posters that I put around the room for our debrief activity. Subtle thing. I'll let you take it away. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Elaine Dahl. I'm with the Governor's Office of Community Service. We're also known as Serve Montana. So if you hear those are just the same office. It's just different ways to call us. And I'm here to give you a brief overview of national service in Montana. No, is it not working? I can click this. There we go. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
No worries. So the objectives today are to learn about the history of national service, to recognize AmeriCorps programs and their predecessors, and to understand how you fit into the story of national service in Montana and beyond. Couple of disclaimers here. One is that this is a brief history, so we're not covering every single detail over decades of history. I'm going to gloss over a few things, and I'm not going to mention every single thing that has happened in national service. And also, we know you're getting hit with the fire hose today. So my goal today is that I'm going to say things, and then 2 or 3 months from now, you're going to hear something, and it's going to ring a faint bell. And maybe you'll remember what I said, and maybe you won't. And maybe you'll say to Ange, hey, wasn't there something at orientation about this thing? So that's really what we're trying to get at with this training. So we're going to go back to 1910 and talk about an essay called The Moral Equivalent of War. Volunteerism existed before 1910. Obviously, people have helped their neighbors. People have volunteered with different kinds of organizations for many, many years. But we're talking about national service here. And so this is really the origin of national service. William James is considered a founder of American psychology. He was also a philosopher and a professor at Harvard University. And he wrote this essay. He actually gave a speech at Stanford University in 1910. It was the last year of his life. And then that speech was converted into an essay called The Moral Equivalent of War. It's an interesting read, and it is, he's responding to other thinkers of the day who are saying war is horrible, but it's also necessary. Nations are going to want to expand their resources. Other nations are going to want to defend their resources. And also it's good because it develops people and in the military and also other people for a national purpose. They come together in pride, they innovate, they work hard, they become stronger. And he's saying, for the first point, couldn't we be more imaginative? Couldn't we think of alternatives to war? We've got commerce, we've got diplomacy, we've got other ways that we could resolve issues and expand resources. And for the second point, he's saying, couldn't we think of a way other than war to bring people together to strengthen our people for common good? And so he coins this phrase, national service. And what he envisioned is not exactly what AmeriCorps looks like today, but That's really the germ of the idea of national service. So we're gonna fast forward to 1929. This is the Great Depression hits, millions of people lose their jobs. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the New Deal. This was the alphabet soup initiatives, so things like Works Progress Administration, the Social Security Agency, the Tennessee Valley Authority, and Civilian Conservation Corps. And this is going to come back around. So Civilian Conservation Corps was one of these programs. So we're trying to get people to do things and get money. So these folks in CCC are building trails, they're developing campgrounds, they're doing things like that in the outdoors. As you go around Montana, you may see CCC trail markers or signage. That's dating back to this time period that people are doing the Civilian Conservation Corps. So this is intended to lift people out of the Depression. Between 1929 and 1942, sorry, I lost my note there. CCC planted over 3.5 billion trees and constructed trails and shelters in over 800 parks across the country. Representative Oscar Stanton DePriest from Illinois introduced a bill in 1933 that passed that ensured that the CCC included non-discrimination provisions. And so this led to 88,000 Native Americans and 250,000 African Americans participating in the CCC. Women were not allowed to participate at this time, but there was some diversity. By the end of the 1930s, almost 10% of the enrollees in the CCC were Black. In 1944, so that we're talking about after World War II, we have the GI Bill, and this is for veterans, signed by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who, by the way, was a graduate of Harvard University, where William James was a professor. So there is this common thread that goes through. So he signs this GI Bill for veterans. A lot of these programs still exist. One of the things was money for education. There were also low interest loans and low cost mortgages. And so this is really the first time that service of any kind, and we're talking about military service here, and education are linked. I apologize, I'm having a hard time with that.
Aaron, did Aaron work on that?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Okay, perfect. There we go.
And we're going to fast forward again to John F. Kennedy, president. So in 1961, he said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And he established the Peace Corps, which places Peace Corps volunteers in service all over the world. This is to promote world peace and friendship through community-based development and intercultural understanding. Have people heard of the Peace Corps before? Okay, awesome. So this is another example of national service. He also did say, and this is a quote, I recommend legislation to establish a national service corps to help provide urgently needed services in urban and rural poverty areas, but it didn't happen then. And he was assassinated in 1963. But his vice president became president, Lyndon Baines Johnson. And so between 1964 and 1973, the Economic Opportunity Act and VISTA were established. And VISTA is Volunteers in Service to America. So this is part of President Johnson's war on poverty. And so he's establishing not only VISTA, but also programs for seniors. There's also a lot of interest around this time. We're seeing an aging population, and we're saying, hey, people who are seniors have specific needs, and they can also contribute to society. The programs that were established for seniors at that time were foster grandparents, senior companions, and RSVP, Retired Seniors Volunteers Program. Foster grandparents and senior companions actually provide a very, very small stipend to the participants. A lot of this was because there were war widows and they were not able to feed themselves and clothe themselves and pay their utilities. And so this was a way to say, hey, foster grandparents, could you go into schools and mentor young kids? And we'll give you just a little bit of money to help meet your needs. Senior companions are seniors helping seniors, and so it's helping them age in place. They go and help them read their mail, run errands, things like that. It's a great program. These programs all still exist. So Vista and seniors trace back to the 60s. We're gonna fast forward a lot. We're gonna go to 1989. Other things happened in the meantime. During the Reagan administration in the 80s, there were a lot of government cuts. So there was a rise of nonprofits around the country, and that's really kind of the main thing to know. There were also other things that happened, but we're again just hitting highlights. In 1989, in accepting the presidential nomination, Republican presidential nomination, George H.W. Bush, so this is the senior President Bush, states that individuals serving their neighbors are like 1,000 points of light. And after his election, he establishes the Office of National Service within the White House. In 1990, he signs the bill called the National and Community Service Act of 1990 that authorized grants to schools for service learning, but it was not implemented at that time. And the Points of Light Foundation was also founded. In 1993, President Clinton signed the National and Community Service Trust Act, which created Corporation for National and Community Service, CNCS, to administer AmeriCorps and the National Service Trust. And AmeriCorps absorbed those programs from the 60s and also instituted new programs, AmeriCorps State and National and the National Civilian Community Corps, NCCC. A lot of those early programs were K through 12 school-based education programs. In 2002, President George W. Bush, so the younger President Bush, this is after 9/11, he calls on Americans to dedicate at least 2 years to the service of others. And this is one of his quotes: "If people want to fight terror, do something kind for a neighbor, love somebody, mentor a child, stand up to evil with acts of goodness and kindness." And during that time, his call actually worked. There was this thing called the Freedom Court. It wasn't any new legislation. It was just sort of a branding that he did as he was calling people to service. And they increased the number of AmeriCorps members from 50,000 to 74,000 in 2004. Yeah, it was a lot. And Director Sadowski, my boss, who was speaking earlier today, she has a special interest in collecting AmeriCorps memorabilia. So if you ever see anything branded Freedom Corps, take a picture of it, or if you can get it for free or for cheap, she would love to see it or to have it. Send it her way. In 2009, President Obama signs the Edward M. Kennedy Serve America Act. Edward Kennedy is President Kennedy's brother, who is a senator. Lots of ties here. They go together, which reauthorized and expanded the Corporation for National and Community Service and the scope of AmeriCorps. So what is AmeriCorps? AmeriCorps' mission is to improve lives, strengthen communities, and foster civic engagement through service and volunteering. This is a dual mission, the communities and the members. And so Sarah talked about this a little bit earlier. You are serving your communities. You are also developing as yourselves, as people in service and as professionals. And so I encourage you, as you're going through your service, and for supervisors, if you can help meet that part of the mission, if you have a member who has a special interest or is trying to develop specific skills, if there are ways to make that work within their position description and service plan, talk with Ange, talk with each other, and try to make that happen, because you all really are part of the mission. The focus areas of AmeriCorps include education, economic opportunity, disaster response, environmental stewardship, healthy futures, veterans and military families. And then this is a special note about capacity building. So in AmeriCorps, they use the terms direct service and capacity building. You all as AmeriCorps state members can do both. Vista members are only allowed to do capacity building, which is behind the scenes So they are not directly serving people, but they can do things like build resources that last longer than their term of service. You can have a capacity building performance measure within one of these focus areas, but these are the focus areas that AmeriCorps has designed for across the country. So the AmeriCorps streams of service are VISTA, Volunteers in Service to America. This is that program that dates back to the 60s. These folks provide that indirect service or capacity building in projects that last 1 year to 4 years long. So you could have 4 different members on a 4-year project, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, to fight poverty. Again, it goes back to President Johnson's war on poverty. AmeriCorps State and National. AmeriCorps State means single state. So you all are single, you're serving Montana, you're not serving Idaho or Washington or other states, you are just serving Montana, so you are an AmeriCorps State program. If you were in a multi-state program, that's AmeriCorps National, or sometimes you might hear the phrase National Direct. So Montana Conservation Corps, they have crews doing things in Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, North Dakota. They are an AmeriCorps National program for their crews. And AmeriCorps State, my office administers the portfolio of AmeriCorps State grants. So that's our portfolio is only the single state Montana AmeriCorps programs. NCCC, this is an interesting program. They are teams of members who are usually aged 18 to 24. The leadership positions can be a little bit older, and they complete a series of very short-term projects. So they might go do a Habitat for Humanity build for a few weeks in one community, and then they might go build a garden in another community. They might do low-income tax clinic help in a different community, and they are deployed across the country to do these different things during their term of service. They also are especially known for disaster. So if there's a hurricane or a flood, they send NCCC, and they do a great job of supporting those efforts as well. And then AmeriCorps Seniors, we already mentioned, foster grandparents in the schools with young kids, senior companions, seniors helping seniors, and retired senior and volunteer program. I didn't say this earlier. This is a non-stipended program where seniors, basically in each community where they have an RSVP program, they design what their priorities are. And so a lot of RSVP programs can do things like Meals on Wheels, helping transport people in need. Does everybody know what Meals on Wheels is? No, okay. So Meals on Wheels is a program where people who are homebound, if they aren't health-wise in a condition, they can get out and cook their own meals. People will volunteer to bring the meals to their homes and drop them off, and sometimes just give them a little company, because it can be like isolating and lonely to not be able to get up and cook your own meals or get out and buy your own groceries. The Serve Montana Symposium, we actually are going to have a service project related to the Helena area RSVP program and what they do with Meals on Wheels. So my office, Governor's Office of Community Service, Serve Montana, we currently have this in our portfolio. These are the programs. So Director Sadowski mentioned this earlier. Here you are. I'll share Kaylin's joy of having you in a slide. Community Health Corps Montana, Justice for Montanans. This is actually part of how I first got involved with AmeriCorps. I worked for Montana Legal Services Association, and at that time they had a VISTA project that they were running. I wrote grants and reports for that, and we also were hosting Equal Justice Works AmeriCorps Legal Fellows, and I supervised one of those and helped write some reports for that. And then my boss said, how would you like to launch an AmeriCorps State program? And not having any idea of what I was getting into, I said, sure. So I have done what Ange has been doing for the past several months, and it's a lot of work. It really is, but that is how I first became involved in AmeriCorps. And I am always blown away by what AmeriCorps members can do individually and collectively. When you have your close of service, it's going to be amazing just to hear what you all do. I can't wait. The other programs are AgCorps. This is a program that is newer for us. The Montana Department of Agriculture runs this program. It's an agriculture focused program for farmers and ranchers and also to address food issues across the state. Big Sky Watershed Corps is a program of the Montana Conservation Corps addressing watershed issues. Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks, they place members in parks to do education outreach and maintenance, trail maintenance, and they're all wonderful programs. We love them all. And so you will encounter folks from these other programs at Sir Montana Symposium.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is all this the state version,
Yes,
the single state?
yes.
Okay. And how many members would you say are in each?
Oh, gosh. So Big Sky Watershed Corps, I believe they're at 46. AgCorps, I want to say, the reason I'm hesitating is that our grant making last time went differently than the application said. So I believe that they are at 14. I believe Fish, Wildlife and Parks is at 16. I think Justice for Montanans is at either 16 or 18 this year. And then you all are 14 1,200-hour slots. The other programs are all full-time 1,700-hour slots. So.
Can you tell me a little bit about what's Justice for Montanans about?
Sure. So the Montana Legal Services Association is a nonprofit that provides free civil legal services to low and moderate income Montanans across the state. And this was a program, it originally started as a collaboration of the Montana Supreme Court Administrator's Office, Montana Legal Services, and the Montana Department of Justice Office of Consumer Protection and Victim Services to come together and host members who could expand the ability of each of those organizations to serve those low and moderate income Montanans. So self-help law centers are the court side of that. And so if you go to court and you say are trying to figure out a parenting plan issue, there are forms and the self-help law centers can help people access those forms, fill them out and file them with the clerk of court. And then Montana Legal Services places members within their own offices to help process applications. Before AmeriCorps, there were 2 staff members who were processing all the applications from across the state for Montana Legal Services. And there was a backlog like crazy. And so bringing on, I think it was 6 members at that time who could help process those applications, do education and outreach, kind of know your rights types of things, tabling at events, coordinating pro bono attorney, volunteer lawyers who help people. These are kinds of the things that they do. And then I don't think that the Office of Consumer Protection and Victim Services is still part of it, that they were helping like process consumer protection complaints and victim claims for restitution, things like that. So they have other partners now, Innocence Project, other things like that. It's a great program.
I did a lot of that when I was with librarian, so that's why when you said that, I was curious.
Yeah. So I'm not sure now, but the Self-Help Law Center in Helena used to be based at the law library here. So there could be other Self-Help Law Centers based in libraries too. But a lot of them are in the courthouses. It kind of depends on who has space.
Yeah.
So this is just to let you know, you may see this logo. In 2020, AmeriCorps rebranded to this, which is what you have on your own materials. This is the legacy logo. It's the same thing. It's referring to the same thing, just you may see it. So welcome to Montana AmeriCorps. The whole point of this is just to help you understand that you are a part of something across the state, across the country, and at this point in time, there's a history behind you, there's a future ahead of you. You represent AmeriCorps and Community Health Corps Montana while you're completing your service hours and in your off time. Montana is in many ways one small town with big long roads in it. And you can kind of be an official a lot of times you may not even know who's gonna know that, oh, hey, there's a new AmeriCorps member at this office. And so how you comport yourselves as you are out and about in communities is important. You're writing for the brand. So just if you can keep that in mind, especially if you are wearing your AmeriCorps gear, just how you will behave, if you can behave professionally as you are out and about. Benefits of serving include your living allowance. I think Ange has probably gone over this, but I'll just briefly cover. Health coverage as determined by the program, which is for most programs, the core network. There is a child care program, an AmeriCorps child program administered by an organization called Gap Solutions. There's a lot of paperwork involved in that, but there is a website for that. Training, professional development, and experience offered by your program. You've heard Kaylin and Ange talking a little bit about the training. I have no doubt you're going to get lots of training in this program. And then the Siegel Education Award, which I'll talk about in the next slide. You may encounter some folks who've served in AmeriCorps who say, oh, I didn't get that. And that might be because they were part-time members. And so these are benefits available to some benefits only apply if you're serving in a full-time capacity, which you all are. So just if you hear somebody say, hey, I didn't get that, that might be why. The Siegel Education Award, you're going to learn more about this closer to your close of service. This is just a really basic introduction. It is taxable. That is something just really important to think about as you're developing your strategy for how you're going to expend it. And everybody's tax situation is different. So just know that it is taxable. And so you might not want to expend it all in 1 year because it will count toward your income in that year. It is after you have successfully completed a term of service. And I will talk a little bit about that, but I think Ange will talk even more about that. Basically, at the end of your service, Ange is going to go into that wonderful My AmeriCorps e-grant system, and she will check boxes saying, did you complete your service hours and did you successfully complete your term of service? Meaning you did what you said you were going to do in your service plan, basically, and your member service agreement. And so that's what successfully completing is. It's for education costs at a qualified institution of higher education, educational training, or to pay qualified student loans. And qualified basically means, are they federally backed? And again, you'll hear more about this later, but that's what qualified is. You manage it. You can say, I only want to take 600 this year. I want to take 1,200 next year. You have 7 years after you complete your term of service to expend it. And so you can just think about how you want to do that as you are thinking about your life after AmeriCorps. And that is a phrase you will hear from time to time. You might want to check out the schools of service that have agreed to partially match education awards. And so in Montana, there are 11 colleges that will partially match your education award. So if your education, I can't remember exactly what your education award is going to be for 1,200 hours, but they might say, we'll match you up to $1,000 or we'll match you up to $2,000 if you expend your entire award with us. So these are things that can help you figure out your next steps as you're moving forward and looking at if going to school is on your horizon. Yes, Ethan.
I'm a little worried that it says 100, so I just want to clarify, like, is it most like institutions of higher education like across the US, or is it like limited to like around like 100-ish or?
As far as I know, that there are over 100, and the Montana Campus Network for Civic Engagement has done a lot of work with the college campuses to get them to commit to doing this. And so what I would say is if you're interested in a particular school, it'd be worth calling their recruiter, their financial aid office, and just saying, hey, do you do any kind of partial match on this? There are also programs, I believe MSU will waive the application fee for graduate school. And so you could also call and say, hey, I'm going to finish up my AmeriCorps term and looking at education programs. Any way you can waive the fee? It's always worth asking. They might say no, but yeah.
And you are eligible to earn up to 2 full education awards across multiple service terms. So you are 1,200 hour members, 1,700 hours is what's considered full-time. And so you can earn, so if you decide, well, Jade, I'm gonna use you as an example. So you were full-time last year? Yeah, so Jade already has 1 full education award, and then she's going to earn, AmeriCorps has interesting math, but basically this is a 0.7 of the education award. And then she would be eligible if she wanted to serve again to do up to a 0.3 award. So Jake, you could serve another full year, you just would only get the portion of the education award. Does that make sense? Okay. Employment versus service. So AmeriCorps is a weird unicorn in the world of payroll. It is.
I'm laughing because it was difficult to get them paid. Yes, yeah.
Yes. This is just something so that you can emphasize with yourselves and with other folks that you're interacting with that AmeriCorps is not the same as being an employee or a volunteer. If you can, try to replace the word work in your mind with service or with the specific verb of what you're doing. So I serve at an organization, I serve as a member of Community Health Corps Montana. It's hard to do and we all make mistakes, so don't be too hard on yourself or others if you do say the word work. It's just a way to kind of differentiate what you're doing from an employee. You're not an employee or a volunteer. There's this kind of old joke that if you were an employee, you'd be making more money, and if you were a volunteer, you wouldn't be making any money at all. And you're kind of in this middle point where you're getting this living allowance. Employees and volunteers typically are not eligible for an education award. They're not entering their data into my AmeriCorps and eGrants to be tracked for the education award. These are things that are specific to AmeriCorps. You get a living allowance, not a salary, and your living allowance is not tied to the number of hours that you serve. Now, most programs will say you have to serve a minimum of 1 hour in the pay period in order for us to run payroll, but your living allowance really is designed to help you meet your expenses as you're serving. It's not tied to the hours that you serve. So you could serve 20 hours in one pay period and 80 hours in the next pay period, and your living allowance should be the same. Okay. In Montana, you are not eligible for unemployment. This was a state-by-state determination. There are a few states that do say that you are eligible, but in Montana, you are not eligible. And neither MSU nor your host site is paying into unemployment benefits. So that's why you can't collect on them once you disengage from your service here. Non-duplication and non-displacement, these are things that AmeriCorps is pretty stringent about. You cannot duplicate or displace employees, but you can augment and enhance employee functions. So like I mentioned, Montana Legal Services only had 2 staff members processing those applications. They kept those staff because they needed them, and then they added members to help process more applications. I have no doubt that you're going to see a lot of unmet needs and that you are helping to meet those needs. It's just, you can't displace someone. You can't have an organization say, oh, it would be a lot cheaper for us to pay the cost share to host a member than to pay for this employee. So we're going to lay off Emily employee and we're going to hire Max member because it's cheaper for us. Can't do that. Okay. So the role of supervisors and host sites and members, and if you need me to wrap up things up, just let me know time-wise. Okay. Okay. Just remember the dual mission, including your development. So members, please act and grow professionally while you're here. And host site supervisors who are online, afford the opportunities for these members to act professionally. They're not grunt workers. They're not your clerical staff. They're not janitorial. This is a professional development experience. And I know Ange and the advisory committee went through a rigorous process to review the position. So your position description and your service plan should outline your responsibilities well. If you are a supervisor, please include the members in your organization, include them in your staff meetings. Especially if the member is new to the community, let them know on things. I remember a member who said, oh, I found out everybody in my town goes to the basketball game, the high school basketball game in town, and people will ask you if you were sick if you don't go on the basketball game. And so if you know things like that as supervisors, and you can let your member know, hey, this is something everybody does, or this is an opportunity that you can go and meet some folks. And then include people in your professional networks as appropriate. So if you're going to go meet with a stakeholder, bring your member along and you can set expectations. We're all adults here. And so if you're a supervisor and you have a relationship with somebody in the community, you can tell the member, I just want you to come in, say hello, introduce yourself, and then sit back and observe, and then we'll debrief later. That's completely fine. Or you can say, member, I want you to talk. I want you to talk about what you're doing. Please, if you're a supervisor, consider your members' likely financial status. Everybody, it's possible. There have been AmeriCorps members who have had other sources of income or wealth, but a lot of AmeriCorps members, the living allowance really is the only source of income that you have, or the main source of income that you have. So I don't want you to make it weird, supervisors, but if it fits in your organizational culture, just think about if you pitch in for gifts as a staff and everybody pitches in $10 or $20, that $10 or $20 might mean a lot more to the AmeriCorps member than it does to staff. And so just think about, oh, could the member maybe go get the present or draw a card or something like that that doesn't cost money. And then if there's leftover food, if somebody brings in donuts or muffins in the morning and there's leftover food, could the AmeriCorps member have it? For some of your organizations, you might say, no, we've got unpaid volunteers or interns who are making even less and we want to send it home with them. So members, don't take this as a promise that you're going to always get the leftover food. But supervisors, I'm encouraging you to please consider food opportunities for members if it can help them meet their basic needs. And then regularly check in and meaningfully, apologies, communicate at this late in the day with each other and with program staff earlier rather than later. That means don't let issues steamroll. If there is something that is coming up, it's better to just kind of flag it. And you don't have to necessarily go into great detail. You can just say, hey, I'm going through a personal issue right now. I might not be my normal self. It could be as much as that. If you're a supervisor, you could flag to Ange, hey, my member kind of seems to be in a slump. And that helps Ange not only support that individual member, but there's this thing called the cycle of service in AmeriCorps. And there are people who make presentations nationally about this. It's a thing that people have observed that is a pattern. Not every member goes through this. Not every service year goes this way, but there is a discernible pattern that sometimes happens. And if Ange hears, oh, I've got 4 members who are in a slump right now, Ange might be like, hey, I got a cycle of service issue. And there are things that she can do to try to address that from a broader perspective program-wide. So please talk to each other as supervisor and member and talk with Ange. Another example would be a training opportunity comes up. You don't know about it right now. Training opportunity comes up. You think this would be great for this member. Please talk with each other and then talk with Ange, because Ange is going to be monitoring training hours. There's a cap on the training hours. And if there is a cost associated, y'all have to figure out who's going to pay for this. And so please talk to each other, talk to Ange, loop her in, because especially as a new program, make life easier for Ange. That is just ultimately the message. So if you're not sure what to do, consult your program specific documents, your position description, your service plan. For you supervisors, you have a host site memorandum of understanding, your handbooks, your policies and procedures. There's a lot. But there might be answers to your questions in those documents. Timesheets, this is another role. Just timesheets are super, super important. Last week, I got emailed this from the Office of the Inspector General for AmeriCorps. It's an anti-fraud advisory. And red flags of timekeeping fraud, right here, it is year after year an issue that this OIG sees. They do not want to see pre-populated timesheets. They don't want to see timesheets that are exactly the same for every single solitary day that you served. They don't want to see excessive or unusual corrections. They don't want to see unsigned timesheets. They don't want to see unusual or excessive hours. If they don't want to see you serving 17 hours in a day unless there's a really good reason for it. Yeah, and so just know that when Ange says, gives you a nudge saying, hey, I need that timesheet, I really need that timesheet. It's not because she loves pestering people or paperwork, at least as far as I know. It's because it's a requirement. What's that, Ange?
No, I don't like pester you with paperwork.
Yeah,
We'll get there, we will do that.
but it is a requirement for AmeriCorps, and it's really for fairness, because if you, let's say, come in late every single day, you're an hour late and you leave an hour early every day, and then you wind up getting the same living allowance and the same education award as somebody who actually did the 1,200 hours, that's not fair. And so this is really just part of ensuring the integrity of the program across the board. Site visits. Ange will conduct site visits, so she'll come and visit you. My office may or may not have a visit with you. And very slight possibility that AmeriCorps, the agency CMCS, will visit you. Don't be scared of this. Just know that it may happen. It's just going to be, hey, how are things going? How's your service? We just want to know so that we can build on strengths and address any issues that might have arisen. And then prohibited activities, it's going to be the next slide. Just be aware of them and don't do them with AmeriCorps resources, please, please, please. Prohibited activities. So this is a lot. And I'm going to give you a handout too. First, I'm going to give you this handout. If you could just post it in your area. And if you need a brain brief, both members and supervisors, take a look at this and adopt your favorite 2 or 3 prohibited activities, because pro tip, one of the questions during a site visit is, could you name a couple of prohibited activities? And what we're looking for is that you're not looking at us deer in the headlights, like, I've never heard of that. What are you talking about? And also that you have a general idea of what they are. I look at this as yellow flags, red flags. So if you're thinking something comes up and you're asked, hey, can we do this thing? If it involves political or elections, that's a yellow flag. You should be looking specifically at the prohibited activities, read it closely and see, can you do it or not? You can't do voter registration, can't do census activities, can't do anything partisan politics, can't lobby, all of these things. Labor unions, either trying to form unions or trying to deter people from forming unions, trying to break picket lines, providing a direct benefit to a labor union. Religious. Again, this is more specific than saying you can't do it. Religious activities do host members, they sponsor programs. It's just you can't do something with AmeriCorps resources that involves mandatory religious instruction or constructing or operating religious facilities, things like that. And then the other is abortion, benefiting a for-profit organization, or any activity prohibited by executive order. That's a new one this year. If you start to think political or elections, labor union, religious, abortion, for-profit, that should just raise a yellow flag, and then go back and look and see, is it specifically prohibited, and work through that together with each other, and ask Ange to weigh in if you have a question on prohibited activities. I also do want to say, for those of you who are site supervisors, if you're looking at this list and you're saying, hey, my organization does lobby, or we do register people to vote, that's fine. You're not using AmeriCorps resources for it. My concern is, are you using AmeriCorps resources? For you all as members, you all are supported by AmeriCorps resources, so please don't do this during your term of service. So this is the AmeriCorps pledge. My boss Sarah is going to come back on Friday. She's going to administer this. It is basically that your commitment to get things done for America. Faced with apathy, I will take action. Faced with conflict, I will seek common ground. Faced with adversity, I will persevere. These are the things that you're going to say on Friday. So look forward to that. And then I think I'll dispense with the elevator pitch, and I'll just say that you should be thinking about, how are you going to introduce yourselves to people? And so my name is, I'm an AmeriCorps member serving with whatever at whichever your host, so Messengers for Health, or you get to say the long name. In whatever town, my term of service is, and I am, and then just briefly describing your activities, and then just have an idea of, yes, somebody might say to you, what is AmeriCorps? Oh, it's a national service program that places people with nonprofit and governmental organizations across the country to serve communities and meet needs. It's not easy. It's that easy. But just having those things in your mind. And also, it is okay to say, I don't know. If you don't know the answer to somebody's question, and you can say, I don't know the answer to that question. I just started this week. And you can say, but I can refer you to Ange Davis, who can either answer or find the answer. Okay, so recap. National service has developed over time with different initiatives and legislation.
And you have your books and your backpacks and, but you need to grab it if you brought it.
Somebody came off mute. You're okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Thought I was getting included.
Oh, sorry.
Be the owl saying hello.
Yes.
I'm not sure who, I think they got it, whoever it was.
Recap is you fit in
Sorry.
something larger than you
Uh-huh.
in space and in time. Welcome. We are so excited to have you. It is so great that you have agreed to do this. We look forward to seeing what you all accomplish this year. And again, just make Angela's life easy. That's all I ask. Yeah, do you want me to answer questions or do you want to jump right in?
Questions?
What questions do you have?
What I was thinking when you're saying that is people that, when I say AmeriCorps, I don't know how many are gonna be familiar, but they will be familiar with Vista workers.
Yes.
We used to have Vista workers long.
Yes, and Vista has changed over time. In the beginning, Vista was the Domestic Peace Corps, and so you may meet someone who said, I came here in 1978 and served, and I did a bunch of direct service, and that's fine. And yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a lady that, I think she came in the sixties and she was a Vista worker and she's still there.
yeah,
I mean,
Yep.
she ended up staying and marrying him.
yeah. Great. Other questions? Questions? I'm not sure if I can see the supervisors to see if there are any questions.
I had a quick question. Are we allowed to post the members like on our website as a staff member or like on our social media?
So you can absolutely include the member on your media. What I would ask that you do is identify them as a community health corps member and or as an AmeriCorps member. So it's absolutely fine to list them and include their bios. But I would just ask that you identify them as an AmeriCorps member or a community health corps member. Does that work?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure who that was, but thank you for the question. Yeah, great question. Other questions? All right, thank you. And thank you.